Now, micro, small, and medium enterprise play a vital role in Nigeria's economy, contributing significantly to employment generation, poverty reduction, and overall economic growth. National Bureau of Statistics 2024 report indicates that the industry is responsible for about 80% of employment and contributes over 40% to the country's gross domestic product. This productive force would have contributed even more with enabling ground for improved productivity. Major challenge has been that of financing, as many entrepreneurs lack the capacity to sustain or start a business. One of the measures the federal government is encouraging growth in the industry is by aiding entrepreneurs with soft credits, facilities, and encouraging innovations. But how reliable has the various credit team been in empowering significant number of Nigerians and closing the unemployment gap? And what innovations are out there exposing more windows of opportunities for Nigerians? This will be the focus on the spot. I am Joseph Watson. Welcome to the program. Now, my guest is an advocate for economic empowerment, youth development, and administrator. He has become a key player in Nigeria's financial sector, driving innovations and large-scale solutions that empower micro, small, and medium enterprises and individuals across the country. His career spans in both public and private sectors, including a position as special advisor on micro, small, and medium enterprises and capacity building to the Minister of Industry, Trade and Investment. He also served as an investment professional at African Capital Alliance Private Equity, where he worked on investment in financial services, healthcare, and fast-moving consumer goods. His professional career began as an analyst at Goldman Sachs in New York before moving into product management at Microsoft. My guest holds an MBA from Harvard Business School and a first-class honors degree in electrical engineering from Howard University. On the spot is the Managing Director, Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian Consumer Credit Corporation, Credit Corp, Engineer Uzoma Nwagba. I will get to that? Nwagba.
Yes.
Okay. Nice to have you on the program.
Nice to meet you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, Credit Corp, from what I understand, is an organization the federal government want deliberately to create that window where Nigerians have access to financing. Can you just give us an insight, a broad insight of what the mandate of Credit Corp?
Thank you very much, Joseph. It's good to be here. Thank you for having me. Right. The mandate of Credit Corp is actually slightly different from what many people might think, which is that it's more loans for MSMEs or credit for MSMEs. MSMEs are important, of course. They're the critical lifeblood of any economy, especially an economy like Nigeria. And they are today responsible for at least 60% or so of our GDP, and more importantly, close to 80% of employment. Very important. But MSME's job is to produce goods and services that people would then consume. That means that if you're funding MSMEs, you are providing credits to them or funding to them for economic supply, supply of goods and services. But there's another side of the cycle, which is the economic demand. So a lot of banks, government interventions, credit schemes have been focusing on providing loans to businesses for economic supply of goods and services to grow the amount of goods and services they produce. Who is providing the same funding or type of funding for economic demand? That is providing funding for people to then buy the goods and services that are produced by MSMEs. That is the job that the President Tinubu, has set out to get done with Credit Corp, which is the institution that I am the managing director. So our job is to expand access to consumer credit for the vast population of Nigeria, allowing people to have credit to purchase goods and services that enhance their lives. That means if you wanted to buy a vehicle, whether it's a car or a keke or motorcycle, you would get credit based on your income to buy that vehicle now. So you don't have to save for several years to buy a car, when you can buy the car now and enjoy the car for 10 years, 20 years, or a house, and be paying with the same income you would have been saving up to buy it later in your life. So you improve the quality of it. Our mantra is about living better now. Yeah. And so
that's at an individual level.
At an individual level.
But still, let's say at a business level now, if I want to buy facilities to start my business, I can equally approach you.
No, well, you can if you are an individual that's mostly starting off let's say you are an individual that wants to start a business, or you are an individual who has a business but you want to borrow in your personal capacity. So it's usually micro enterprises. So if you are a keke rider who wants to buy a new keke, you probably don't have registered as a CAC business. You're probably registered as an informal entity. You can borrow money as Uzoma or as Ahmed,
and not necessarily as an enterprise.
Not as an enterprise, but you will buy your tricycle. And you find that a lot of MSMEs are operating in the micro space, and they borrow in individual capacities, and there's nothing rudimentary or even wrong about it. In fact, in some of the societies that we aspire to, like the US, most entrepreneurs you hear about, including Mark Zuckerberg, who ended up building this multi-billion-dollar behemoth, and most of the entrepreneurs that you know about, that you celebrate, started off their journeys by what they call maxing out your credit card. That means they had a credit card that was lend a debt to them as an individual, and then they took the debt on their personal capacity to start the business. Then of course, when it grows and you have structure, you have formalization, then you can go and borrow as a limited liability company. So that is the job of consumer credit. Then the last thing I'll say on consumer credit is we are particular about supporting the growth of local industry. That means that if we are giving you credit through financial institutions, we work with financial institutions, so we give them wholesale capital or we guarantee their loans to expand consumer lending. But if that consumer lending is going to a Nigerian who wants to buy something that is made locally, like a locally assembled keke, a locally made furniture, then of course you get it at significantly crashed interest rates. So we want to drive a lot of our consumers to go and buy locally made goods. But the goal is that it's consumer credit. I think the best way to think about it is, who is the beneficiary of the credit? The beneficiary of the credit is an individual, not a business. Yeah. Even if that individual ends up using it to fund their small business, they are borrowing as an individual.
Okay. Many Nigerians, what their major concern is always been is, what is the interest rate? Mm-hmm. Definitely, anything above a single-digit rate, many Nigerians will frown at it. What is the...
So there's a very big misconception that the problem with credit and access to credit is interest rates.
Because once it's federal government intervention, people always look up to a very soft interest rate.
Definitely, we do. So right now we are operating in interest rate environments where people are taking loans at 4 to 7% per month. That's about 48% to 84% per annum.
Because I'm talking to you now, I'm getting insights into this. A lot of people out there worry. They say most of federal government interventions, they don't get to hear it. They only sometimes come to hear it when maybe there is a disbursement somewhere, when there is they are launching something, they say, oh, these are beneficiaries of this, and they now begin to wonder, when did this happen? What has been happening since? So, what are you doing towards that direction to get Nigerians aware of how they can assess this particular credit?
Understood. So the work we do at Credit Corp, because we don't want to just be a shot in the arm. So when people think of interventions, the notion of an intervention is an event. So you intervene in a crisis or in an activity, and then when you are done, you exit. Our job is not a shot in the arm intervention. Our job is to build a credit system for the country, or at least to help develop a credit system for the country. So what that means is that we work with the financial institutions that are here to stay, that have always been here. They are the ones who evaluate you for credit, to know whether you are eligible for credit, to know how much you are eligible for. And it comes from a number of things that they will assess, including just your existing relationship with your financial institution, your bank, your microfinance bank, your finance company. We're not creating any new financial institutions. We work with those that exist and have distribution. So what that means is that if you go to your financial institution today and say, I want to get access to consumer credit, I want to renovate my house, I want to buy a car, I want to buy a motorcycle, or I want to buy a sewing machine for my business, but I want to buy it as in my personal capacity, whatever it is, I want to put a solar panel over my home, then they would assess you for credit. As an individual, they check your credit history, they check your income levels, they do that. Are there
specific banks you are operating with?
Yes. Right now, on our last, we did an expression of interest, which is still ongoing for financial institutions. We had about 150 financial institutions, essentially sign up to work with us. So what is our job now? Our job is, one, we enable the financial institutions to give you a cheaper loan than what obtains the market now, because we're in a very high interest rate environment. Obviously, that also depends on what they assess you in terms of your risk level. Risk level meaning how consistent is your income, or how easy is it to evaluate your income to be able to recover the funding back. But we make them give you a cheaper loan. Most of our beneficiaries today, they're getting the loans at between 20 to 30% per annum less than what the market would have offered it to them. Then the other part, the last thing about what we do is that is the guarantees, which means that even if we don't give the institutions money to then lend to more people, we ask them to use their own money, and then we say that if it goes bad meaning that if they lose money in the process, maybe they don't recover all the money back, then we can get into a risk sharing arrangement where we can share the losses, all in a bid from Mr. President's vision, which is let more people get access to credit. Do everything that you can to get more people to get access to credit. So we give funding to the institutions to do credit, we guarantee them for those that use their own money, and then there's another part of the work, which is the biggest part of our work, and will take a bit more time, which is that the money that's required to do consumer credit in Nigeria, and to get it to the point where half of the population, meaning that about every 10 people you meet, 5 of them can easily access consumer credit. The amount that it takes to do that is about 180 trillion naira. It's not even, the government can't even begin to think of funding that. That's not even close. So it is still the financial system that has to bring out that money. And they have the money. The reason why they're not lending to individuals now, consumers, is because of the issue of trust.
Is there limitation in terms of the amount one can collect? Because you may go to, some may be thinking 2 million, 3 million, and then there are others who are going 100 million, 200 million, and so on. So what range? What's the range?
It all depends on your income. If you make, the labor laws require that you don't take, you will not borrow money, or you shouldn't be giving consumer lending where your repayment per month is more than 1/3 of your income. What does that mean? It means that if I earn 300,000 naira a month, I cannot borrow money where my repayment every month is more than 100,000. My repayment every month cannot be more than 1/3 of my income. That means that automatically caps my lending, the amount of money I can borrow per annum, to 1.2 million. that is 100,000 naira that I can borrow times 12 months.
Okay, let's pause for a break. The discussion will continue when we come back. Welcome back to On the Spot with Managing Director and Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian Consumer Credit Corporation, Credit Corp, Engineer Uzoma Nwagba. We're discussing about the credit loans. Many Nigerians walking into the bank to ask for loans. I mean, what I observed, especially in the civil service, they're very scared of it. Many of them speak about their experiences of hidden charges. They tell you, oh, it's 4% increase in interest rate, but there are other hidden charges that they don't really understand. So not many believe, especially in the civil service, believe in going to the bank to assess such things. What they want is that kind of protection where the corporation will give them, and they will want, maybe if they have to assess these things, maybe they would have assessed it through the corporation to have that confidence. Is there room for that?
So the short answer to your question is yes, there is room for that.
Okay.
But when you say accessing through the corporation, we are not...
No, the corporation, just a corporation like a window, like a drive, a vehicle to go to the bank.
Yes, you mean a way to access...
Because I'm telling you, many just walk into the bank to say, I need a credit, social credit. Many are scared of that. They believe the banks are not sometimes straightforward with it. There are some certain hidden charges that they don't understand. You may just say 4% interest rate, but there are other charges that at the end of the day, it may consume you even up to a 2-digit.
Okay, I think the best way maybe to address this would be just to talk about the three things that how we get about our work, the things that how we execute this mission. The first is around infrastructure, meaning enabling more Nigerians to have their credit behavior reported on the credit reporting under the Credit Reporting Act. Today we have what we call credit bureaus, and their job is to receive the outcomes or the reports of people's borrowing. So if you borrow money now, how you behave, how much you borrowed, whether you paid back, how you paid, the outcomes of that should be reported on the to the credit bureaus. Now, that is not, today that reporting is not all encompassing. What does that mean? It means that if you as an individual, all the borrowing you do, sometimes it gets reported, sometimes it doesn't get reported, depending on the institution that you borrow it from. So there's an enforcement issue there. In fact, the law even requires that, or the regulation requires that it's reported by your financial institution to 2 out of 3 bureaus. That means that there's a 60% chance that it's reported and 30% chance that it's not on any of the bureaus. Second part is that even if it's reported, there are many times or many institutions that today are not required to report. So if you borrow from a loan app, Loan Shark, from a lot of microfinance institutions, definitely from finance companies, they can report out of the goodness of their hearts, but they are not required to report. So what does that mean? It means that when you go to borrow money the next time, or the next 2 times, the financial institution that should go to your credit report and see your credit behavior, your history, cannot really trust what they are seeing there, because they don't know whether, one, it is a true reflection of all your borrowing, since some may not be reported, and 2 is, even if it's a true reflection of your recent borrowing, it's the information that's there does not give it all the historical context. So there's a lot of reviewing of just the way our credit infrastructure works, that are working with the CBN and ultimately with the credit bureaus to ensure that every single Nigerian has a credit score, all their credit reporting, everywhere you borrow money, even if you do borrow me airtime from your phone, or you went on a job, everything must be reported, so that it gives the confidence to the next lender and the next lender and the whole lending ecosystem to then advance you loans based on what they see there. That's the major reason why consumer credit today is not working, because the credit reporting system is not strong. The second is capital. I won't dwell on that because I talked about capital. We give wholesale lending to banks or microfinance or financial institutions to say, even however you're managing to make that decision today, we can give you capital to do it, to give more and to make the loans cheaper, or we guarantee the ones that you do. The third part, speaking to your question, so I talked about infrastructure, then capital. Yeah. The third is cultural reorientation, which is to change people's mindsets about credit. Most people think of credit as a bad thing, that you go and get credit when you are in a bad situation. That credit is, you are in Yoruba it's called Yonibese, that you now have a debt on your head. So my point is that the cultural orientation part of our work is critical to help people understand that credit is not a bad thing. I wish I could say to Nigerians now that please go and borrow money. Go and borrow money and improve your life. Borrow money and get a vehicle. Borrow money, fix your house. Borrow money, get a solar panel to get power. Borrow money to deal with challenges that you have today, as long as your income can sustain it over time. Don't save for decades. So something you can get now with credit and still pay with the same money. Because your life, your body, your quality of your life does not know that you are waiting. You are suffering now for something you can deal with credit.
Okay, that's good. Talk to borrowing now to live better. A few days ago, you wrote out a second auto financing program, where I understand that a lot of people got credit for cars and so on. Tell us about it. How did it go?
Absolutely. So the fact that it's the second means I'd like to talk about, just quickly speak on the first. So we have a program called SCALE, Securing Consumer Access for Local Enterprises. SCALE. What it really means is just we are enabling people to get funding to go and buy locally made goods and services. That means that you get capital and you go and buy locally made furniture or car or from Innocent or Nord or those types of people, or the other vehicles like kekes. So with the SCALE project, we had a vehicle fund, 20 billion naira, that we have set aside that people can borrow money and go and buy locally assembled vehicles. And the first one we did was with the rollout of locally assembled kekes. We don't roll it in, we don't make them, we don't even sell them. But we work with the partners, financial institutions, to give people credit, and we find the manufacturer or assembler, and people go there and they purchase. So we rolled that out, that's growing, that's ongoing, with TVS, which is the largest assembler of kekes in Nigeria. The assembly capacity is about 1,000 kekes a day. Now, that is for locally assembled kekes. The rates significantly crashed because we are enabling local industry. But that also applies to cars. If you buy a Nord vehicle or Innocent vehicle, we're working through those details, and you'll be seeing some people buying those vehicles now, locally assembled cars. But we also learned that a locally assembled car costs, or just a brand new car, because those are brand new, costs between 30 to 70 million naira. Many Nigerians cannot afford that. Even their income cannot sustain it. So we're not saying borrow recklessly. Don't go borrow 30 million naira if your income cannot sustain it. So most people cannot afford those vehicles. The people that can afford it, they get the credit to buy it and get it at very reduced interest rates because it's locally assembled. But people want to buy 3 million naira cars. They want to buy the second-hand pre-owned vehicles. They want to buy the car from the dealership. Yeah. And those cars are not any less mobility or any less life-enhancing than the 70 million naira car. Your life is still better with the 3 million naira car than to be trekking. So we need to allow people to buy what their incomes can afford. So we're setting up our second mobility initiative. While the locally assembled vehicles are being purchased and the interest rates are significantly reduced, for Nigerians that also want to buy pre-owned vehicles, that is used cars, we enable them to get credit as well to buy those. So the second mobility one was that. So we partner with AutoCheck, which is an integrated financing that works with dealerships across the country. So if you walk into any of those car dealerships now where they sell cars, whether it's Toyota, Honda, whatever it is, some even used Innocent if it's there, right? Or any car you see at the dealership that you want to buy, they will profile you for credit immediately on the spot. You get a decision, and then you can buy the car. So you will drive out of that place with a vehicle. So that allows us to get that scale of distribution also address the needs of Nigerians, which are sort of a multiplicity of them, and allow people to buy vehicles that they can afford, which improves their lives.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Engineer Uzoma Nwagba, Managing Director, Chief Executive Officer of the Nigerian Consumer Credit Corporation, Credit Corp. Thank you for being on the spot.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Yeah, we do appreciate you too. It was very insightful.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And thank you to our dear viewer for always being there. I'll see you on the next episode. Goodbye for now.